and this drowning in a French town, Boulogne-sur-Mer.
Absolutely shocking. So 60 people on a boat and 12 died on this voyage, including around 10 women, and half of the people dead were actually under the age of, I think, 18. So it was really, really shocking. And it was traumatic for these 3 fishermen who were just going about, their lobster catching and had to pull out 3 bodies from the water. And I think reading this story was just especially shocking because, we hear our politicians in this country talking time and time again about how they're going to stop the boats and their plans, but actually nothing has been done. And this is so serious an issue where people are literally being killed daily by these channel crossings.
But they shouldn't get on the boats. I mean, they shouldn't get on the boats. I mean, I remember saying that, and literally people lynched me. How could you say that? As if I'm being cruel, suggesting that don't get on a goddamn boat that is dangerous, and these people who you're buying this thing off don't care about your well-being.
It's a massive humanitarian crisis, and I think obviously the French government here are not doing their part, and that's been clear. And they've always been happy to just shift the blame onto us and police these boats across the ferry, or obviously sometimes not. But our government too has responsibility, and with this Labour government, his plan is to simply give asylum, and it's that kind of behaviour which leads to these people who are told by the traffickers, come to Britain, you will be getting a house and free work and you don't have to worry about your papers. And, to a certain extent, that is true in the sense that you can come here and have asylum. There's nothing being done against that.
Well, there is. I mean, there's still processes to go through.
Yeah, sure. But on the whole, Labour do not have a strong plan to actually stopping the root of the issue, which is the fact that we are not strong enough to police, or we're not policing our borders strongly enough, even though there is an appetite for it.
Well, look, it's clear that boats can sort of, in a sense, be turned back, because Germany sent some people back. So, Winston, what do you make of this?
I was actually looking at stuff the other day about this, and the thing is, they're saying, like, the French attitude now to the British is turning because they are so angry and upset, about having to deal with the migrants on that side of it.
So in what way is it turning?
In saying that, because they're saying that because of what Alice just said a minute ago, the lure of coming to this country is so great, the demand is never easing, the demand's increasing. People want, no matter what they're putting in place, they said the French coastline become more militarised. So what they're doing now, they're finding newer ways to get in. So they're starting their crossings in canals and further inland, or they're going further up the coastline. And even though they're using drones and more sophisticated ways of night vision goggles to try and detect it, they still won't stop that demand because, like you said, once you get here, you've got that opportunity for a new life.
And most people who come here stay. Look, if it was me, I'd have cruise ships there in the channel. Anybody who comes, gets on the ship, we'd process you there, and that would put people off straight away.
Exactly.
The only thing is that they said the people that are coming, right, you say about risking their lives. If I'm willing to risk my life and my children's life, I saw a pregnant woman with her children died this week. If she's willing to put her unborn child and children with her at risk, what does it say about her drive to want to go from wherever she is to get here? She must have such a desire for something.
I think she thinks she's unlikely. What happened to them is unlikely to happen to her because the odds are that it won't. Just like when you get on a plane and you think, oh, well, some of them crash, but hopefully not the one I'm in, sort of thing.
I bet the percentage of people on these boats is far higher than the percentage of people dying.
It's mostly women, isn't it?
French Interior Minister Gérald Darmanin says Britain's soft-touch migrant rules is to blame for the latest small boats crisis.
Now, this comes after 12 migrants have died trying to cross the UK, including a pregnant woman and 6 children. So does the UK have a soft touch on migrants crossing the Channel?
Let's talk to former UKIP leader Neil Hamilton and former Conservative MP Neil Parish. Good to see you both this morning. Neil Hamilton, we're going to have to keep it very formal with 2 Neils on this morning. Neil Hamilton, what do you make of this? Are we a soft touch?
Of course we are. That's the pull factor, isn't it? I have to say I wouldn't want to let the French off the hook either, because they could easily stop these boats leaving the shores in Calais or wherever. So we see the French police and the border force of France standing by on the beach whilst the people smugglers carrying on to the dinghies and sent across the channel. But they're absolutely right to say that we are a soft touch, because all these illegal immigrants know that they'll be put into hotels, they'll be fed and watered, they'll get free mobile phones, they qualify for benefits, and they know nobody ever gets deported. So to stay. So, of course, it's a big pull factor. And we've had a useless government for the last 13 years, and we've an even more useless government now. So there's no end to this until we have a government that's got the will to put a stop to it once and for all, get out of the European Court of Human Rights, which is the big legal block, the success of schemes like Rwanda. And we've got to take charge of our own borders again, which is what people voted for in the referendum back in 2016.
Oh, Neil Parish, do you think that getting out of the Convention of Human Rights and all the things that Neil Hamilton is saying are really the answer? Even if we left that, there are countries who are still within it who manage to ignore certain elements of it. Is that really the answer?
Yeah, I agree with you, Nana. I think it's too simplistic to say it's just all our fault. I think we cannot deport to many countries, which we need to. I think we are letting the French entirely off the hook. We actually need to be able to have actually more access to the French police, to the French security. We need to get our police and our security forces to help them, along with Germany as well, where a lot of these boats are stored, right through to Turkey. I think, stop actually doing anything about them when they've got here is far too late. And so therefore, I think let's not actually beat ourselves up over it. Let's actually get back to the French and say, let's do a lot more about this. Let's actually work much more together. I do agree with Neil Hamilton that the police in France don't always appear to do what we would like them to do to stop the boats. But of course, falling out with the French over this one will not actually stop the migrants. And don't forget, these are people, they are children and women and everybody losing their lives. And so, we do actually need to try and stop them. And these are people traffickers, basically, aren't they? And it's illegal what they're doing. And we do need to stamp it out. So I think, yes, Neil has a point that we can appear to be soft, but that won't stop them coming, I don't think. They are convinced they're going to get here, and they pay a lot of money very often to get here, and then they're drowned in the channel. It is horrendous. So I would say go back to the French and say, right, let's actually sort this out. Let's try and stop them actually getting into those boats, because it'll be safer for them and safer for everyone in the long run, and we won't get as many migrants. And I think, Neil, it's always easy to criticise whatever government in power until you're actually in power to do something about it. And so I think working much more with the Germans, the French and the Belgians to try and stop it, and whether Keir Starmer can actually negotiate any deal to get them back to Europe, because the danger of that is the Europe will want free movement of people. And I don't want to get Neil too wound up this morning, but that is the key to it.
Yeah, well, look, I mean, to be fair, Neil Hamilton, I mean, in terms of talking with France and Germany to try and sort something out, that's exactly what the Prime Minister's been doing.
That's exactly what the previous government did and got absolutely nowhere. Macron, of course, isn't interested in doing a deal because he's a fully paid up Europhile and says, no, it's Brussels we want to talk to, not Paris. By the way, the French have got a big problem with the migrants coming across from Italy, and Italy went from France. This is not something which is peculiar just to the English Channel. Within the EU, the so-called Dublin Convention, which says you can send migrants back if they come to your country, is not the first place at which they landed after they've left wherever they are outside the EU. The Dublin Convention doesn't work. So the whole of Europe is actually suffering the same problem, because right across Europe, the elites will not deal with this problem. Fundamentally, the elites are actually in favour of mass immigration. And this government under Starmer definitely is in favour of mass migration. Labour Party calculates this is where the votes of the future are going to come from for them. They've got no interest whatsoever in controlling migration. The tragedy was that the last Conservative government, which had a real political interest in cracking down on illegal migration, failed to do so because of their obsession with the European Convention on Human Rights, which is an absolute legal block on the Rwanda scheme. Within which set up the Rwanda scheme, there was first of all a right of appeal for every individual on grounds that his was an exceptional case. And if the Home Office then turned them down, they still had a right to a judicial review. Of course, and if they failed, they could still go to the European Court of Human Rights. So until we deal with this, we're never going to be able to send people to third countries.
Neil, your mic is cutting in and out, so it's making it quite difficult to hear. Neil Parish, we'll give you 20 seconds to just have a response because we've got to move on. I just thought it was a bit unfair because Neil talked a lot and you didn't get your turn.
Right, OK, I mean, just to say really back to Neil Hamilton, and I think we put far too many eggs in the one basket of Rwanda, and I still repeat, we have got to sort it out the other side of the channel, however difficult it is, and let's actually get to work on that, and then there'll be less people risking their lives coming across and less people being trafficked across the English Channel.
OK, Neil Hamilton, Neil Parish, good to see you both. Thanks very much indeed.